Welcome to Weight Loss and Wellness for Real, the podcast where people like you get the practical solutions and support you need to permanently lose the physical and mental weight so you can feel better and live the life you really want to live in the body and mind you really want to be living in. If you're looking to overcome your stress eating, overeating, binging behaviors, and move to a place of food and body freedom, as well as find more meaning and more moments of joy in life, you are in the right place. Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in and listening to Weight Loss and Wellness for Real. Today, just a real quick reminder, if you have a minute, to make sure you subscribe to and or follow the show. And if you have more time, to rate it and give it a review. Those things really, really help support the show. So if you find anything valuable from what I'm putting out there, it would be really appreciative if you would do those things. It just helps everyone else find the show more easy, helps the show grow, helps me be able to keep putting out an episode every single week. So if you would do me that small favor, I would be forever grateful. Today, I have a very special guest. Her name is Dr. Melissa McCreery. She is a psychologist, emotional eating expert, author, host of Too Much on Her Plate podcast, and the creator of Your Missing Piece, the program that supports smart, busy women in creating freedom from overeating and peace with food. She has helped thousands break cycles with overwhelm, overload, and overeating without feeling deprived and without depending on ridiculous amounts of willpower. Her approach to helping working mothers, busy professionals, and stressed out business owners emphasizes leveraging your unique strengths, ditching diet mentality, and using the power of psychology. I'm really excited to have her here today and get started with a conversation. Obviously, she and I have some very similar philosophies and actually work in a very similar capacity. So this, I think, will be a conversation where you can learn a lot, get some practical tips, and get inspired. Hello, everyone. Like I was saying before, I have Dr. Melissa McCreery. That is how you pronounce it, right?
That's it.
McCreery.
Right.
Yeah. Here with us. And Melissa, I just really appreciate you being here and being willing to share your wisdom. You know, as I was telling you before, I listened to a couple of your podcast episodes, and it was just so great because we have such similar philosophies and approaches to helping women with overeating and emotional eating. So I'm excited to talk to you. Can you give us a little background on you and how you really got into what you're doing right now in helping women?
Sure, absolutely. So, as you had already shared, my background is I'm a clinical psychologist, and I have spent my entire career and graduate school and all of that working with women around food and eating and their bodies and their weight, and probably every single way you could imagine that getting tangled up. For a number of years, I was in private practice as a psychologist. Oh, so many ways. And I was in private practice as a psychologist doing psychotherapy, working around these issues. And I loved that. Although I have to say our healthcare system is broken and there was that whole issue with things. But what really led me to where I am now is that I found myself over and over and over again sitting across from these amazing women who were doing amazing things in their lives, who were smart, who were incredible problem solvers, who, you know, whether they were super moms or professionals or, you know, healthcare professionals. And they would tell me, yes, about their amazing lives. And then they would start talking about these issues with food. And their view was so limited, right? It was like, okay, I know this is always something I'm going to struggle with. I know I'll never beat this. I know this is my thing. Maybe I should just give up. And then I would talk to other professionals, and that was the same thing. It was like your weight is something you have to manage, and your relationship with food is something you have to rein in. And it was all about control and discipline. And it was so heavy, and it made me so angry because that is not what I know from my own life. That is not what I know from my clients. And nobody was teaching anybody about the possibility and how to get free from this tangled up mess. And it's
Yes.
out there and it's so attainable. And so anyway,
Completely
that's what I
agree.
do. The internet has opened up a world where I can work with people all over the world. And it
Yeah.
is just the most, sometimes people will come to me about working with me or joining my program, and they'll
Hmm.
say, okay, but does it really work? You know,
Right.
does it? Because
Yes.
there's this
Yeah.
fear. There's people have invested so much hope. And what I always tell people is,
Yeah.
man, if this stuff didn't work, I would have the most depressing job in the world.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
And what I
Yes.
actually have is the incredible honor of
Mhm.
being able to watch people create freedom and
Yeah.
just transform things so that they can leave this stuff behind and live their
Oh, it's
lives.
just the best to watch that, isn't it? I mean,
Oh my
it's so
gosh.
empowering and just so freeing. And yeah, it's pretty spectacular. So
Yeah.
you really, it sounds like, I mean, you've just really had a heart for this and a passion for this for quite some time.
You know, I don't think, I know,
Mhm.
when I take all these strength assessments, one of my strengths is seeing possibilities. And
Uh-huh.
it just, nothing frustrates me more than seeing what is possible, or what is, the potential that is there,
Yeah.
and not being able to move into that or lean into that. So yeah, I love this work.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
wonderful. That's wonderful. Well, I did do a little research and getting ready for this interview. So I know, I kind of saw on your website you can take this quiz on all the hidden hungers. Could we start there? Just kind of talking about what you mean by hidden hungers, what they are.
absolutely. And so, and I'm sure this is so much of what you do.
Hmm.
Part of how women get tangled up in these battles with food is that we have been taught from the moment we were thinking about weight and eating, we've been taught to focus on food. And it
Right.
sounds so logical, right? Like, if you want to change your eating, you should focus on what you eat. And if you want to
Yeah.
change your weight, you should focus on how much you eat or how much you move. The problem
Right.
is that misses the whole issue, which is that there is always a reason that we eat.
Yep.
There is
Yep.
always a reason. When I choose to put something in my mouth, or when I'm thinking about putting something in my mouth, there's always a
Hmm.
reason. And sometimes there are physical drivers for that, or hormonal driver, internal
Right.
physiological
Right.
drivers for that.
Hmm.
And so much of the time, there are other very powerful reasons that we are using food. And
Hmm.
instead of getting locked up in these cycles, which diet culture and diet mentality teach us to do, of blaming ourselves and saying
Right.
you're not strong enough, your real
Yeah, like
power.
there's something wrong
Oh,
with you.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Why
Hmm.
can't I stop eating chocolate?
Hmm.
um,
Hmm.
what we aren't taught is that our real power comes from getting clear on what we're really hungry for. We have
Hmm.
these hidden hungers, and there are, for smart, high achieving women, which is who I tend to work with,
Hmm.
there are several that come up. There are 5 that come up pretty consistently. They
Hmm.
work together. When you have one, you start to be more lean into a tendency to have the other one, and to kind of build a snowball of these things.
Yeah.
And if we don't address what we're really hungry for, the cravings and the urges to binge and
Yeah.
the mindless wandering into the pantry and not knowing why we are there with our hand in the jar of the cashews, right? That food continues to have all that power. And the other side of that is that when you can address the reasons that food has the power in your life,
Hmm.
you don't have to control it anymore, because you can just kind of evaporate that hold
Yep.
that it has on you, which is so
There's
incredibly
such,
cool.
yeah, such freedom in that. And
Yeah.
I think, I think when you're in it, it is often so, I mean, I was in this, and my listeners know because I'm pretty open in my episodes in my podcast, but I was in this for years and years and years. And it really does feel like you're in prison because it takes over your life. All your energy is put to either figuring out, well, what am I going to eat next? Or what do I want, and or how do I stop doing this? How do I stop eating? How do I, and so it just takes so much energy. So to your point, when you kind of figure out, not kind of, when you figure out that the more deeper, what's going on a deeper psychological level. So the hidden hungers, what is it that you are really trying to fulfill? What is that hole you're trying to patch up, whatever it is. Once you have clarity around that, it's so empowering because it is this moment of where it's like, okay, I might not yet know how to um, give myself those things, but at least I know now what I'm looking for.
Exactly. It gives you a whole different problem to solve.
There
Diet
you go.
culture teaches you to stay focused on the wrong problem. How can I not
Right.
eat potato chips, or how can I not go through the
Yes.
drive-through? But if what you have is a hidden hunger for rest because you are exhausted
Yes.
and you're
Yes.
ignoring that, and all you're doing is sitting on your hands trying not to eat French fries, that hidden hunger is going to keep propelling you toward the thing you're trying exactly not to do. Right. And
Yes.
these hidden
Exactly.
hungers, I think people get scared about looking at the reasons. I know people get scared. Like,
Mm-hmm.
okay,
Mm-hmm.
part of the reason I'm numbing out with food is I don't want to know what's in there. I know it's going to be big.
Right.
But these hidden hungers that I'm talking about are not deep trauma. We have
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
too. We
Sure.
absolutely have that too. But if you're not dealing with the hidden hungers, the the deeper stuff is, I mean, that's a whole other layer.
Right.
These are quote unquote simple things. They're not simple,
Yeah.
but
I know what you
some,
mean, though.
right,
Yeah.
like not getting enough sleep, right, like
Right.
stress, like being too
Yes.
busy,
Yes.
like having not have running out of bandwidth because you're
Mm-hmm.
overwhelmed. And maybe we talk a lot about emotional eating, but emotional
Mm-hmm.
eating isn't simply about, oh, I need some tools to deal with emotions, right? I need to
Right.
know how to deal with anxiety. Sometimes we eat emotionally. We know perfectly well how to deal with the emotions, but we are
Mm-hmm.
out of bandwidth. We don't have the
There
time
you
or the
go.
energy or the
Yep.
interest in dealing with our emotions because we haven't slept, and we're stressed,
Yes.
and we're too busy, and we haven't had any time for ourselves, in the last week and a half. And
Right.
so it can get complicated. Well, it can seem very, very complicated if you don't
Mm-hmm.
simplify things and start by looking at hidden hungers.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm such a um I'm a little type A. So I like things very linear and laid out, And so I love that you have sort of simplified it down with that language and to that piece of where we can get really targeted with some things. I think that's really, really helpful for many women in this space. It's pretty tough when we start overcomplicating everything because, again, that takes so much energy and typically, as you're just what you're saying, it's like, oh, yeah. I mean, so many of my clients, that's usually one of the biggest ones. They do not have, and they're overwhelmed. They do not
Yeah.
have the energy to make the decisions that they really, really want to be making. So once someone sort of figures out maybe some of these hidden hungers, how do you kind of how do you move forward from there with women?
That's a great question. And I want to say first, because this whole idea of hidden hungers can feel overwhelming.
Hmm.
When I start
Right.
describing these hidden hungers and how they work together, most people, so you're a normal human being if you have this reaction, most people's brains start to freak out because they're like, oh, I have all of them, right?
Right.
I'm
Right.
tired and I'm
Yeah.
busy and I'm stressed and
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
overwhelmed and I don't have the bandwidth to
Yes.
deal with my emotions and I
Hmm.
haven't had time for myself. Yes, they do. It's a domino effect. And so
Right.
that's actually the reason that I created the quiz, because you don't get anywhere by seeing the entire forest, right? You
Yeah.
get somewhere by figuring out and how to be strategic about what tree to start with. And so the
Right.
quiz isn't going to tell you, oh, Heather, you've got all the hidden hungers. It's going to tell
Hmm.
you what this is, your dominant one. This is the place to
Love it.
start. And just like vicious cycles can start, like one
Hmm.
thing can lead to another, what our brain
Right.
always forgets is that positive cycles can start with the teeny tiniest things
Yeah.
too. And
Yep.
so if you can identify, which the quiz helps you do, if you can identify this is my dominant hidden hunger, and
Hmm.
here are some very simple, doable things I can start to do, which your
Hmm.
results will give you. And your
Hmm.
brain will say, oh, that's not enough. I need to just clean out my pantry and give up sugar.
Right.
That is not the answer, right? But when you start to put these little things in place, you start to
Hmm.
turn things around. If your gears have been turning one way, you start to reverse the pattern. And you
Yeah.
really can create freedom from overeating by doing very simple things. So,
Completely agree.
yeah.
I think of it, and I use this language a lot. It's sort of this upward spiral. It's kind of like if you can make one of those little small doable changes, doable being the key, it does start that momentum, like kind of moving up and up and up. And I mean, yeah, and it's just so fun too. I love talking about it because when you can get someone just do that one doable thing, you almost always can see that momentum start to shift, and it's pretty amazing what one little thing can kind of do and
Yeah,
change for
and
people.
people who are listening really need to take that in, because
Mhm.
diet mentality negates all of that.
Yeah,
Diet
it does. You're
mentality
right.
is all about you have to do something big, you have to do something
Yeah,
dramatic, you have to go hungry, you need to
right.
lose
The
10 pounds in 10
detox,
days, you need to
right.
detox. Yeah, like really, like your whole system needs to be detoxed. How crazy is
It
that?
cracks me up.
But what happens after years and years or even a few months of being exposed to that,
Mhm.
which we are
Mhm.
constantly, our brain starts to believe that nothing other than something
Yeah.
painful is going to make a difference. And
Yep.
so we minimize, you can start taking these small steps. And I see this all the time with clients who will be like, yeah, but it's not working. I'm like, what do you mean
Right.
it's not working? Well, let's talk about I have literally had clients who at the beginning of a conversation believed that it wasn't working because I don't know why, but this is how your brain
Mhm.
is just wired. And as we
Mhm.
started to list the wins, which was
Mhm.
painful because you guys, your brain does not want to see that you are winning at this. It is
Oh, this is so that
part of the
negative
psychology of
bias
this.
that we have. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
And I have literally had multiple clients where I have said, no, we're really going to do this. We're going to go through your wins. And about two-thirds of the way through this process, it
Mhm.
is not unusual for somebody to say, oh my gosh, when I joined the program, I was binging every afternoon, and
Yeah.
I haven't done that in 4 months. I didn't even realize.
Yes.
I didn't When
Yep.
you make changes that aren't like efforting and forceful, sometimes they just happen and you're like, "Oh, wow, I didn't even know I don't binge anymore." That
Oh, I think that's beautiful. And that does you're so spot on. That does occur, and, I think I love how you're explaining that because our brain really does have this negative, bias. And for many, I would also say high achieving type A sort of personality, it's even harder to see the wins because typically that personality is so focused like on the goal and then the next goal and the next, that sort of thinking. And so that it almost makes it even more difficult to sit back and kind of look at, okay, yeah, these are the positives that have come from this, or this is what I have actually succeeded at. And that example of like the binging happening every day and then all of a sudden the realization of like, oh, I guess I haven't binged, and however many weeks. And um I mean, it's shocking how people can skip past all the good that they have been and are doing. Yeah, I think it's
we
a
do
really
it
good
all the
point.
time. We do it all the time. And so
Yeah.
that is, take the quiz, take the simple step. Um, and then start noticing the positive, which your brain is going to tell you is a stupid step. Your brain is going to
Right.
say, oh, or you're going to want to do it in your head instead of write it down, or you're going to want to just do, oh, I already
Yeah.
know the wins. Um,
Yeah.
Collecting the good stuff. And I always say, feeling like you're getting somewhere builds
Yeah.
momentum and motivation. If I don't feel like I'm getting anywhere, why would I want to
Yeah.
keep going?
Yeah,
Right.
that
And
defeat sets in and totally saps our energy or our willingness to want to move forward.
yeah.
I know neither of us are a fan of willpower. So, could we talk about that a little bit and maybe what would be a better approach in your mind?
Well, a lot of what we've been talking about,
Yeah.
I think. So again, we've been taught this model that controlling your relation, who wants a relationship? Okay, two things. I just have to say this. Who wants a
Yeah.
relationship with food that they have to control? And
I
then my
know.
other pet peeve, and I actually got this from a member of my missing piece program. We were talking about stuff, and she said, "Why would I want a relationship with food that I need a cheat day from? Why would
Yes.
I want any relationship?" She said, "I wouldn't want a marriage that I wanted to cheat. Like, why would I want a
Exactly.
cheat day?" Right?
I love that. Yep.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
yeah.
that leads into where it's sort of like if you're having to willpower your
Mhm.
way to control everything, it lends itself to like, okay, well, now I do need this and I hate the word.
Yeah.
this cheat day,
Yeah.
or this day where I can do whatever I want. And it's just like,
Or
well,
I need a
how about
break. Yeah. I need a break.
right? How about if you just kind of felt great every day about the choices you were making and how you were nourishing your body? And it's really hard to explain to people that you really can get out of that space of where you're thinking about, okay, I really want that, but I can't have that, to a space of you just don't think about that anymore. You kind
Yeah.
of know what you enjoy eating. You're cool with it. It's just not a big deal.
Or you can have it and you've gotten
Yeah.
your confidence back in yourself and you know that you can make commitments and
Yep.
you can keep them and they're perfectly comfortable. Sure has taught you to have so much shame around certain
Right.
habits or choices or preferences. And
Yep.
first, okay, so yeah, willpower is a miserable way to live.
Yeah.
Willpower will always fail you, and it will fail
Yeah.
you at the moments when overeating is probably the most likely for you.
Such a good point. Yep.
And, again, we've been taught to think, I really believe your relationship with food is a forever thing. I mean, I believe it.
Yeah.
It's true. You're going to have a relationship with
Yes.
food for the rest of your life, but we've been taught
Right.
over and over again this like, if I can just do this for 8 weeks, or if I can just do this
Yeah.
until the weight comes off, and there's no real, okay, so, but then what do you do?
Right.
Right. If I'm not
Yeah.
allowed, if I'm somebody who loves Coke and I'm not allowed to and I'm talking about the pop, not
Yeah. Gotcha.
if I'm
Oh,
somebody
that's
who loves,
hilarious.
loves if I'm somebody who loves drinking Coke and I've decided,
Right.
okay, to lose the weight, I'm going to give it up, for 3
Yeah.
months,
Yeah.
then what do I do on the other end of that? And what do I do about the cravings that I had for it? And all, you
Yeah.
get to have something that works for you forever, which doesn't mean you have to wake up every day and do the same thing forever, because you
Yeah.
get
I
to learn
agree.
how to be nimble. And when you're listening to yourself and your hidden hungers, and then you get to move with the fact that I'm on vacation or it's Christmas
Right.
or,
Right.
I'm having a hard week and I didn't have time to pack my lunch this week. And you get to
Right.
adjust instead of it being all or nothing. Well, I guess I'll just come back to it, next Monday.
Exactly.
Yeah.
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 That all or nothing thinking definitely is a big trap. And learning how to think in new ways around food, our relationship with food, is huge. It is a lot of what can step us out of trying to willpower everything, for sure. Can you talk to me about, you have 4 pillars for creating freedom from overeating. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. This is what I teach people when in my one-on-one coaching and in my group program. If you want freedom, if you want peace with food, that you've got to do it differently, right? We all know, like, going in there, starting over on Monday, the whole, beating our heads
Yeah.
against the wall with the thing that has never worked, saying if we were just stronger, it would work this time. That's not true. And so
Right.
really, in order to do something different, you have to start by creating a new foundation. That foundation, I really believe, is taking your power back. So the first
Mhm.
pillar of my program is embracing your power. And that means figuring out how does food have its hold on you? Why is overeating
Mhm.
so powerful in your life? What are your hidden hungers? What are you believing and telling yourself? Because so many women come to me and there's superpowers in the rest of their life, but they've lost their
Right.
confidence,
Right.
right? And they've
Yes.
also lost their trust in themselves, because we've been taught through diet mentality to make these promises to ourselves. Oh, this time is going to be different. And we don't believe
Yeah.
ourselves anymore. We have to do
You
these big
bet.
dramatic things, and we know they won't work, and we know we won't stick with them. And so embracing your power, finding your power again, getting your
Mhm.
confidence back, learning how to make promises to yourself that you can keep,
Mm.
understanding that there is a reason you've been eating and it isn't because you're lazy or you don't have enough willpower.
Right.
All of these things have to come first, because
Yeah.
otherwise you and I and everybody else can take the best plan in the world. If there was a way to get,
Mhm.
push a button and get a food plan that is custom fit for you, we could get that plan and we would turn it into a secret deprivation diet, right? With
Exactly.
tons of
Yep.
perfectionism, and we would find a way to make ourselves miserable with it, because that is the mindset that is ingrained in us.
Yep.
So the
Yep.
first pillar is taking
Absolutely.
your power back.
Love
The
that.
The second pillar is the one that everybody wants first, but it can't come first. And that's like, okay, I know diets don't work, but how am I supposed to eat? Like, what am I,
Right.
if I
What
don't go on
exactly
a
is it?
diet, if I'm not going to use willpower, what does that mean? And what does that look like? And can I still have my goals? I have a lot of people who will whisper at me
Right.
like, am I still allowed to want to lose weight? You're
Right.
allowed to do
Right.
whatever you want to do.
Yes. Yes.
Of course, sometimes it's important to look at why you want to lose the weight and is this really
Mhm.
your goal? But of course you can want to lose weight. But
Yes.
how do I eat? So the second pillar is, what does it look like? It's how do I eat without dieting? What is the way of eating
Yeah.
that works for me and doesn't
Mhm.
trigger all that old diet thinking?
Yep.
How do I keep my power and eat? So that's the
Love
second
that.
thing. The
Mhm.
third pillar, which diet culture doesn't talk about at all, is if you want freedom from overeating, you have got to become the CEO of your time and your energy. You have
I
to take
love
your power back in
that.
that area.
Yeah.
Because again, the whole hidden hunger cycle. So how do I
Yeah.
get the time for myself? How do I give myself
Yeah.
the things that I need that are not food? How do I really make
Mhm.
that happen? And then the fourth pillar, which again, it's ingrained in everything I do, but it's forever freedom. This
Mm.
is not an 8-week system. This is
Right.
not like, okay, I think I'm ready now. I can do it. I have this good stress. People always say, is this a
Mhm.
good time to join the program? I have this and this and this going on. That's the perfect time to join the
Yes.
program because
Right.
that's the
Right.
time when you struggle, right? You don't want a
Yeah.
way, okay, I've got this nailed, but I have to keep everything else controlled in my life. As long as I don't go out to
Right.
eat, as long as I don't have work events, as long as it's not the holidays, I'm good. No,
Yeah.
you want a
Yeah.
forever plan. You want a plan that works for you if you go to Acapulco. You want a plan that works for
Right.
you when your, most stressful relative visits or your kids are sick
Absolutely.
or you hate your job, right?
All those things. Yes,
Yes,
totally.
absolutely. So those four things, which are
I
so
love that.
different from how many carbs should I be eating,
Right?
right? Or is it okay to eat sugar? That stuff falls into
Yeah.
place when you get these pillars under
That's
your power.
exactly what I found, where it's like if you can empower people to understand, if they do these other things first, the other stuff just kind of comes alongside. And that's also the piece that makes it a little bit more effortless in really getting to whatever goal, someone might hold. I
Well,
know you and I, oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that is people resist this because they want to jump in with a food
Hmm.
plan because you want, okay,
Right.
but wait a minute,
Right.
but I want to lose
Yeah.
some weight, right? But
Yeah.
this is the path. When you start with a different foundation, it's like resetting your GPS differently. And
Yes.
it's gonna take you to a different place. It is going to take this is what it takes to wake up one day and realize you're not binging anymore versus
Yes.
counting down on a calendar, how many days can I not binge?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Perfect example.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know you and I share some similarities in our thoughts around shame within all of this, and then our thoughts around how self compassion comes
Mm.
into play as
Mhm.
well. I thought maybe, it might be good for the listeners to hear a little bit how you work with those two things, shame that comes with some of this and how self compassion kind of fits into that.
That is such a good question. There is actually a hidden hunger for compassion.
Yeah.
And it is the one that is the hardest to explain to people. And I think people are sometimes a little disappointed or maybe a little freaked out when they get that hidden
Yeah.
hunger for compassion because it's like, well, wait a minute, I understand that I need some stress relief or I understand exhaustion, but what the
Sure.
heck does this mean? But if you are somebody who is eating mindlessly or you are always eating on autopilot or you are eating to numb out, those are some
Mhm.
pretty good signs that you've got a hidden hunger for compassion.
Yeah.
And without compassion, and compassion doesn't have to mean lavishing yourself with gifts. Compassion is as simple as saying, oh, there's a reason I'm doing this. I've been working really
Right.
hard and I'm really frustrated that it hasn't gotten me anywhere, but there's a reason. I am not lazy. I do hard
Yeah.
things. right? There's a reason. And I may
You
not,
bet.
like you said at the beginning, I may not know what to do about this reason right now,
Mhm.
but it's not me. That's the start of
Exactly.
compassion.
Yeah.
Shame and guilt, which are so pervasive. I think, we can spend a lot of time battling them, and they're working with somebody, I think is a really powerful thing when, particularly with shame. Because
Agreed.
shame thrives in darkness and
That's right.
aloneness. Inside our own brains, shame is king, right? Or queen.
That's right.
Um,
That's right.
but but the thing that is important to remember, because I often ask people, like, we can battle with something that we're doing, or we can just say, is
Mhm.
this serving us? And the
Yeah.
thing about guilt and shame is that it points its finger at you, right? I
Mhm.
am in this place because of me. I am at this weight. It is my fault. I,
Mhm.
had the week I had because I was weak or lazy, or you fill in the blank.
Mhm.
And the thing to remember about that is that it's a total dead end. It is a closed loop. There
Mhm.
is no learning if you've already decided
Right.
it's all your fault and you just need to be stronger. There's no room for curiosity. There's no room to think, oh, well, I wonder what would happen if I took these steps that had nothing to do with Oreos, right? Like, um,
Right.
it
Yes.
shuts everything down.
Hey everyone, just real quick, I wanted to tell you about a new company I've been working with that I am thrilled to share with you. I absolutely love this company. I use them myself and have for a really long time, and that is Kion Aminos. I really think that Kion Aminos stand out because they are one of the very few companies that offer all 9 essential amino acids in their formula and transparently list the exact amounts of each. This level of honesty is really, really rare in the supplement industry. So you truly know you are getting what you are paying for. Supplementing with essential amino acids can significantly aid in appetite control and support muscle maintenance and recovery. I often recommend Kion essential amino acids to my weight loss coaching clients to really help with urges and cravings to overeat. Kion aminos can help you feel fuller longer and really help you to build that lean muscle to keep the metabolism going. Our bodies cannot produce all the amino acids that we need for optimal health. So, essential amino acids really need to come from our diet or from supplements. So, without regular intake, we risk losing muscle mass and bone density, making these nutrients especially crucial as we age. And one of the ways I think about using on aminos is because many of us have a lot of difficulty getting in the amount of protein that we really need on a daily basis optimally. So, supplementing with essential amino acids can really help aid with that. I really love knowing that alongside my dietary protein, I'm supplementing with the essential amino acids necessary for my long term goals of strength, muscle maintenance, weight management, and just overall health as I age. So, some quick protocols if you want to try Kion Aminos for weight loss. Mix a scoop with water in the morning and another in the afternoon when you kind of have that energy dip. And this is really my go to routine for appetite control when I'm in the office, because often in mid afternoon, I'm getting into that energy slump. I really start to crave something sugary or caffeine, and I don't want to do either of those. And Kion aminos really help me get through that mid afternoon slump. And then for endurance athletes, taking 5 to 10 grams per hour during workouts longer than an hour can make a huge difference. I ride my bike in endurance. I don't know, routes and races. And so I do take Kion aminos on my rise just to keep my muscles well nourished. It's often difficult to eat when doing long endurance athletic endeavors. And so I use Kion aminos to kind of help supplement with that. And then also, if you've had a tough workout during the day or a really, really hard day, a scoop before bed can help aid in recovery. Since I felt the benefits of Kion aminos, I want to share it with you. And as a listener of this podcast, you can get 20% off by using my referral link, getkion.com/Heather. That's GETKION.com/Heather for 20% off your entire order. Plus, they offer a 60-day money back guarantee. Really, you guys, this is a really exceptional company. You are getting exactly what you are paying for. So that 60-day money back guarantee, you have nothing to lose. Check it out. See how essential amino acids can support your weight loss goals and athletic performance and help curb those cravings.
And so
Yep.
even if you are in a place where you believe, oh, but it really is my fault, or I really am not strong, or whatever, even if you believe it, I would totally challenge your listeners to think, could I experiment with setting that to the
Absolutely.
side for a day or two and just playing with the idea that it's possible that there's a reason. And if I
Yeah.
investigate that a little bit, where might that lead me?
I
Right?
think that gets into that whole idea of bringing on board curiosity.
Yes.
So, and you mentioned that just a little bit ago, where it's like helping someone to understand, all right, you're dead set on your belief that this is you, you're the lazy one, you're all that. Okay. But, and I love the word play. I use that a lot too. But could we play around with some curiosity around this and cultivate this feeling, this sense of curiosity around it and start to do a little questioning? I think it opens the door. It just, a little bit of light, shines through. And if you can get someone into that spot, oftentimes that gets the door opening wider and wider for this
Yeah.
whole different way of making changes.
We could do a little right now, empowering, like taking your power
Yeah.
back, because once you start to realize that you are an incredibly powerful person and you give yourself that credit everywhere else in your
Yeah.
life except here,
Yes.
it starts to feel a little ridiculous, and
Right.
people start to get a little indignant, and it can be the first place of taking your power back. So if you're listening to this and you're feeling stuck in this area, I would really challenge you to go make a list of all the
Mhm.
problems you have solved in your life,
Mhm.
right? It could be work problems, they could be marital problems, they could be how to be in 3 places at once for soccer tournaments with your
Right.
kids, right?
Right.
How because you've done amazing things and you do them in your
Mhm.
sleep. You do them without even thinking about
Mhm.
it. It might be a little hard to get going because you're like, well, that wasn't a real problem. Yes, it was.
Mhm.
So start a
Mhm.
list and treat it like a grocery list where you maybe put it on the side of the refrigerator or in your wallet and you add to
I
it
love
as you
that
think about
idea.
things. But start to remember that you know how to solve problems. And so if you could
Yes.
just put down the guilt, let's start with guilt because
Mhm.
that's easier than shame.
Mhm.
If
Sure.
you could just put that down and, like you're saying, play with curiosity. What are some other
Yeah.
things? If I'm eating every day at 3 o'clock and then I'm not hungry for
Mhm.
dinner and then I feel guilty and then I binge in
Mhm.
the evening, if all roads don't lead to I'm just a weak person, like if I just want to solve this problem, what might some other things be that are going on here? All right. And
Yeah.
what other things have I been able to figure out that I didn't initially know the answer to? Start to make a list, start to take your power back. It
I
changes
love
everything.
I love that because I love practical exercises. So
Yeah.
I love that idea and just using that to build those thoughts in our head that give us more the sense of confidence and that, okay, I can keep moving forward with this, staying curious and looking at maybe some different solutions than what we've used in the past to try to figure out this issue. Yeah, I think that's great. I think that's great. So, anything else you would like to add or that you wish I had asked you? Anything like that?
This has been such a great conversation. I really
Yes,
appreciate
it
you having
has.
me on the podcast. I think I'm always tempted when people ask me that question to think, okay, what else can I
Mhm.
share? And yet, I think
Mhm.
it's also important because our diet brain is always asking that same question: what else should I do? What else should I do? Right?
This is
Like
true, Melissa.
I could
Yes.
add this in, right? And if I'm going to do
Right,
this, maybe I
right,
should also
right.
walk for 30 minutes after lunch.
Right.
And like we
So true.
always want to do more,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
so
Mhm.
I guess what I would add is it's okay to keep it simple. It is
Yeah.
okay to, when your brain is saying you're not doing enough, to remember, no, wait, this week I said I was going to play with this. I was going to
Yeah.
practice this. And I'm going to practice letting that be enough Because guess what? My brain, I have seen that pattern. I know exactly how that dance goes, where I'm going to add on and add on and add on and overwhelm
Yeah,
myself and quit by Thursday and then spend the weekend thinking I
totally.
have to start over again on Monday. And it
Totally.
has not served me well. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Beautiful way to end. Really important point for sure. Tell the listeners, where can they find you? How can they work with you? What are best ways to be in touch? I also could I know you have a book, don't you?
I
Do
do
you have a
have a
book?
book. Yeah. It's on Amazon,
Yeah.
The Emotional Eating Rescue
Yeah.
Plan for Smart, Busy Women.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
pretty easy to find me. My website is toomuchonherplate.com.
Okay.
My podcast is Too Much on Her Plate. And if what we're talking about, I'm just passionate about giving women more resources to talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
So please check it out. And if it resonates with you, fantastic. Instagram, Too Much on Her Plate, Facebook,
Okay.
Too Much on Her Plate. It's
Oh, you're
pretty easy to
easy.
find. The quiz is on the website. There's also
Yeah.
a roadmap on the website. A lot of people are like, okay, the podcast is great, but I'm sure it's like your podcast. There's episodes and
Hmm.
episodes. And so,
Yes. Yeah.
people asked, and I created a roadmap of kind of start here. Here's some episodes
Oh,
to start
nice.
listening to.
Great.
And it'll
That's a
also
good
give you
idea.
information about the quiz and all of that. So you can go to toomuchonherplate.com/map, and that'll give you the whole kind of
Awesome.
starter pack.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for being here. I really, really do appreciate you sharing your wisdom, and also just really appreciate your heart for helping women move through something that can be so incredibly detrimental in life, and being able to work with someone with like you to make the changes. I mean, there's just so much freedom. So I really appreciate you sharing your heart and your wisdom. And thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you. And you're doing the same thing. It's awesome. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks, Melissa. Did you know you can find a lot more help from me on my website? Go to heatherheynen.com. Heynen is spelled Heynen, and there you will find links to my online courses, how I work with clients one-on-one, as well as online with my coaching and counseling services that I offer. The information in this podcast is intended to provide a broad understanding and knowledge of healthcare topics. This information is for educational purposes only and should not be considered complete and should not be used in place of advice from your physician or healthcare provider. We recommend you consult your physician or healthcare professional before beginning or altering your personal exercise, diet, or supplementation program.